If you're looking, there's deals, right? But you have to know where to look. People don't remember what you do. They remember how you make them feel, right? If you can make someone's day, if you can impact someone's life, you're doing good for the world.
My name is Kevin McIntosh, and this is The Closing Table, where we talk to experts about their experience in real estate all across the country. Let's go. Welcome back to The Closing Table. I am your host, Kevin C. McIntosh, and joining us on this episode, ready to share his knowledge also, we want to welcome Cole Nichter to the show. How you doing, Cole?
You're doing great. Thank you for the opportunity, and it's a pleasure.
Absolutely. And like we always say to our guests, thank you for accepting our invitation and taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. So let's talk about what's going on in your market. But first and foremost, let's talk about you as an individual. If you can, in 60 seconds or less, Cole, tell us who you are outside of real estate.
Outside of real estate, I've grown up all my life playing lacrosse and football. I'm an athlete. I love sports. I love anything with entertainment. Whether that's, hang out with some buddies, talking about real estate or sports, or whether that's, just relaxing and having a good time at the beach. Obviously I'm located in Melbourne, Florida, which is about 10 minutes away from the beach. So it's always nice to, go out, relax and, hang out at the beach and have a good time.
Yeah. As somebody who's in Michigan right now experiencing some true fall weather, I can tell you I'm a little jealous of that right there. You got the beach with that great weather too. Good to hear, man. Good to hear. So let's move into your actual real estate business. I want you to kind of just give us a breakdown of your business. If you can, hit on a few key important points, how long you've been licensed, any notable achievements, and what you would consider your niche or specialty.
Yeah, so I've been licensed for about 2 years, newer in the business, but I won Rookie of the Year, as well as I have done about 3.5 million in my first year as real estate. So that equates to about 14 transactions. So I'm getting off the ground and running. I think my biggest specialty is I bring a variety of things to the table. Right now, I'm working on a major commercial deal, bringing in a publicly airline and traded company, as well as, working a lot with investors. I see myself as more of a buyer agent. I like working with the investors. I like being able to negotiate. And I feel like that's one of my key skills, is being able to help the buyers get price off the home, whether that's back in concessions, whether that's back into, money off the closing costs, or whether that's even, negotiating the price of the home. I feel like those are some of the skills that I like. I like the dirty work. I like getting in there and, just being able to help the buyer out any way, whether it's, guiding them towards the right lender, whether that's finding a hard money loan, whether that's, being able to, hold their hand throughout the process. Obviously, not every buyer has bought a home before. So it's how can I assist them at the highest level possible? And that's what I pride myself on.
Oh man, I love that. I love to hear that because we get both perspective. We have guests on here, agents who prefer the seller side, but then we have guests like yourself who prefer that buyer side, who feel like that's their strength, that's their preference. Even though you can obviously handle both sides, you really like we can see the passion and the fire that you have already just from describing it and helping buyers and investors. So Nice. We're hitting on good momentum so far, Cole. I want you already touched on it briefly. Florida, Melbourne, Florida, if I'm not mistaken specifically. But let's go into your current market that you're serving, because I'm pretty sure it's more than just Melbourne. So let's describe your market that you're serving twofold, right? One, as much detail as you possibly can for people who may have never been there. Local attractions, things to do, what you're known for, et cetera, et cetera. Then go into some of the data, the statistics when it comes to real estate, pricing, things of that nature. You have the floor.
Awesome. So first and foremost, I work 3 different marketplaces. My main hub is Brevard County in Melbourne, but I do work Miami and Orlando. I'm going to just stick to Melbourne just for the sake of time.
Mm-hmm.
Number one is Melbourne was ranked number 3 according to U-Haul as the number 3 county that people are moving to in the country. So what does that mean? We have a lot of different job opportunities coming into Melbourne. We have Northrop Grumman, we have L3 Harris, we have some of the biggest and largest corporations that are coming to Melbourne that are bringing tens, if not hundreds of thousands of jobs. One of the
Mm.
biggest things that Melbourne is doing now is they're they're adding towards the entertainment. They're adding towards, that overall destination feel. And why should people come to Melbourne, right? The airport's growing more than ever. You have commercial service that's coming in. You have the bigger names. You have Delta, you have American Airlines, you have Breeze Airways, et cetera, right? But three of the big cool key components that are coming to Melbourne is number one, is the Brevard County Zoo is building a $100 million aquarium that's going to be a natural attraction that is supposed to break ground in 2025, meaning
Wow.
that it's going to have all different types of sea animals. It's going to have all different types of, aquatic life. And that's going to be a natural attraction that's actually going to be based in Cocoa Beach, Florida, which is very neat.
Mm.
That's over in Brevard. Second, we have the number one port in Florida with national name cruise ship, whether that's Disney Cruise Line, and the list goes on
Oh.
and on. So we have a lot of traveling back and forth, back and forth. So that great location of that $100 million aquarium is perfect. Next, we have a $65 million lagoon, so AKA a water park, that is going to be built in 2024. So that way, it's another tourist destination, not only for the locals, but for people who are coming in. And that's going to be built right across from the airport. We also just built a brand new hotel, and it's one of the first of its kind to actually be able to have the private planes land on the commercial strip and pull right up to the back of the hotel to be able to let their guests off. That is one of
Oh,
a
wow.
really cool hotel. It's got a rooftop bar. It's got, a swimming pool and the whole nine. It's awesome. And then third and finally, and the cherry on the top, in as of 2026, and they plan on it, it's been confirmed, is that they are bringing the Hard Rock Hotel to Palm Bay, which is going to be
Oh.
huge because obviously
Mm.
right now we have two Hard Rock casinos. We have one over in Tampa that's more of a kind of just a casino. And then we do have one that is more in Miami, but that's just more of a cafe, a couple gambling here and there. And then we have our big one in Fort Lauderdale. And that one is the one that everyone goes to. But we needed another destination. We have something in Jacksonville. We have big cities in Miami, but we have nothing in the middle. So Melbourne's really trying to implicate that Tampa feel, that middle ground of the best of Jacksonville and the best of Miami. Trying to get into some. What does that mean though for the market? That
Mm.
means the market is ever going up. And it always seems like right when it's starting to come back down, it's got that boost of energy that comes up back up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we do see that contraction, and I think everyone's been talking about, oh, the contraction, the recession, it's pulling back, it's pulling back, it's pulling back. But this is the thing, right? It's seasonal. We have seasonal spikes in real estate. That's what people need to understand. Right now is a slower time. I tell my investors, buy now. And you might go, well, why buy now? It's 7.3% interest rate. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about, right? But listen to this, right? Is I go and I tell my investors this. I said, 40% of investors are buying right now. 40% are first-time home buyers.
Mm.
20% have bought twice or more, right? So what does that mean? That means right now, if you have all cash, which I work with a lot of all cash investors, I tell them that, say, look, the minute those interest rates drop below 6.5, we're going to go back to where we were a year ago. We're going to have multiple offers on a home. What does that do to the price? It bumps it up, right?
Up,
So
up.
your discount that you can get now for 4% off, 5% off, right? That's not going to be there when those interest rates come down lower. Now, a lot of options there are. If you go to the mortgage side, you can do 2-1 buy downs if you want to play it for the 2 years. You can do, 30-year fixed. You can do all different types of options that are allowing people to buy now, have a lower rate, and be able in 2 years to refi. and for people who don't know what refi is, that's refinance, right?
Right, right.
So in order for my investors to get the best price, you have to buy when people are not buying, right? And you have to
Mm-hmm.
sell when people are buying, right? But in order to do that, you have to understand the marketplace. You have to understand when are your buying opportunities. Because right now, if you look at everywhere on the social media, they're saying, don't buy, don't buy, right? You know why they're saying don't buy? Because the other people who are saying don't buy are buying, right? It goes back to the toothpaste, right? You have I like to use this example is you have some of the biggest stock traders in the world. And let's look at one person individually, Warren Buffett, right? Warren Buffett tells you to diversify your portfolio, right? But what does Warren Buffett actually do? He only has 3 or 4 stocks that he's invested in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a prime example of somebody saying diversify your portfolio, but yet alone he's not diversifying his portfolio. So it goes back to, sometimes you do need to understand the market, but a lot of it is there's levels to this stuff, right? You have to understand, when is a good time to buy, but yet alone you have to understand, how can I multiply my investment? Does the numbers make sense, right? Because you
Yes.
can go out and get $50,000 off a home or a multifamily unit, and it still doesn't make sense. So it's you
Mm.
gotta really, play with the numbers, understand. I tell people all the time, if you're gonna invest, if you're gonna buy, go to somebody who's an investment specialist. Do not go to a basic realtor, because I will tell you, and this is not to knock realtors, 70% of all the realtors I talk to have no idea how to lead their investors the right way. And that's why a lot of those realtors don't have repetitive business. If you look at all my investors, they have bought multiple things from me, or I've helped them in other ways that will benefit me down the road. It's not always the instant gratification that people are looking for. Real estate is one of those things where it's a relationship building business. And it's how can you make that relationship last a lifetime? That's the important key.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We like to say it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's the long term game overall. But yes, it is a relationship game also. But you hit on so many different points, and I'm glad that you spread around like that, because what we got from that is your market, Melbourne specifically, it's a developing market right now. A lot of new things coming, aquariums, they're updating the airports, more commercial lines coming there, uh,
Yep.
uh, all different types of things. Hard Rock Cafe that you say, and casinos that's there and developing. All different types of attractions. The cruise line ports. It's amazing to see, like, they're actually putting a lot more money into it, and it's just going
Yeah.
to continue to build the economy, which in result is going to build the pricing or the housing value. Right, is going to take it right on up, which we're
Yeah.
hearing a lot about in the Florida market in general.
Yeah.
So it goes right along with the theme of that. So, but yeah, exactly like you said, investing, if you're going to do investments, you do it with the right type of real estate agent. Then the real estate agent who knows the right numbers to look at for the long-term gain, such as yourself. Not all real estate agents have that type of specialty or that niche. Thank you for highlighting that, sir, first and foremost.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, one of the more important things that people need to understand is that, there's in Brevard, there's so many different communities and there's so many different cities that are different. And I think that's what makes Brevard different. You have Melbourne Beach, which is a higher end area. You have Indian Harbor Beach, you have Cocoa Beach, you have, Cape Canaveral, you have, all of those are on an island, right? An island
Mm-hmm.
barrier. You got to take a causeway over to get there, right? Just like Vero Beach. So that is the beach life. And then you have Upper Brevard, which is your Mims, your Titusville. And those are more of your, I could say, more of your country feel. You have larger lots. You have 2, 3, 4, 5
Mm.
acre lots. You have, things are more spread out. And then you
Okay.
have the Melbourne area, which is more of your city life area. That's going to be, you have Viera, which is your high end real estate. That's your luxury real estate. That's where all the high end shopping is, the high end, eating and everything like
Mhm.
that. So it's one of those things where Brevard offers so many different cities because it's 83 miles by 23 miles wide, 33 miles wide, excuse me. So it's so long that you have so many different cities that offer so much different things that it makes a buyer who says, "Oh, I want this. Oh yeah, just go here." Or "I want this. Oh yeah,
Right.
just go this way." Right? So it
Mm.
allows you to really find, the best thing for that buyer. Now, the average median price as of the end of September is
Uh-oh.
387,000.
Okay.
So it's not crazy, but
Right,
that is
right.
for Brevard County in general. If you want to limit it down to Melbourne, you're looking about a 414,000. So you
Okay,
got
okay.
a pretty big jump in
Right,
median,
right.
right? So it's
Okay.
one of those things where, if you're looking, there's deals, right? But you
Mhm.
have to know where to look. And that's why, I tell people it's very important to find that specialty realtor when you're relocating, because a lot of people come here and say, and listen to their friends and say, oh, buy here, buy here, buy here. And then they lose their butt on their house because they're there for 2 years, whether it's Air Force Base. We have Patrick Air Force Base as well. And then, we also have a lot of different, cool, businesses, small businesses and things like that. So it's not, completely, large scale corporations, but, we do
Right.
have some of the mom and pop, breakfast places, lunches and dinners and stuff like that too. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which makes the community. Those smaller mom and pop shops and restaurants and things like that. But then you have the other bigger companies that are coming and they're bringing the jobs. So
yeah.
it's a good balance that you need right there. You
Uh,
already started talking about things that's kind of separating yourself from others, Cole, which we like here at the closing table. So let's dig into your work a little bit more. If you can, I want you to describe what your typical work day includes, right? I know it all. Your days kind of change, right? They're not all the same. So let's go off your most recent work day. Walk us through from morning through the night. What's your work
yeah.
consist of?
So so I like to generally keep the same schedule, right? So I'll be up around 7, 7:30. I'll do my morning routine, which consists of eating. It consists of, listening to some music to help me gear towards the day. I put on my what I call my suit, right? It's also my uniform. It when I put that on, I'm mentally prepared. I'm mentally saying, all right, start thinking about real estate. Who do I have to help today and how can I help them? Right.
Mm,
And that's how I approach things in the morning. I like to put on my uniform because once I'm there, I'm in character, right? I'm now that superhero that I can go out and be, right? So after that, I drive to the office. I got about a 30-minute drive to the office. I get here around 8:30. I get my morning coffee in. Got to have that long espresso, and then I'm on the phones from 9 o'clock to 11:30 is normally my cold calling, my dialing. I call expireds. I call canceleds. I call for sale by owners, and the list goes on, right? So I have different days. I'll say, okay, Monday is my more for sale by owners. I want to see what happened on the weekend. I want to see who listed their home, and I want to make those appointments, right? Now, for any of you guys wondering, okay, what is he using for his expireds? What's he using this for sale by owners for? Make sure, follow me on Instagram and I'll make sure to send you to that personally. But going forward on that, I think once I hit 11:30, then I usually go to lunch, right? Because got to feel the
right.
body up, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'll either go with my broker, I'll go with some colleagues. We'll go have lunch for an hour and a half. Now with those appointments that I set from 9 o'clock to 11:30, those are the appointments then I go on and do in the afternoon. Now, if I don't make appointments in the afternoon, what do? I do different activities that I call money making activities, right? Those are activities that are going to make me more money, whether it's, dialing back on the phone, whether that's, going to some open houses that may be open, new construction, right? I literally just got a deal not too long ago because I was at new construction. And what happened? When I was there, I ended up speaking with a guy and I listed his home for $750,000 just from one conversation. So the
Mm,
business isn't always in the office. The
mm,
business is sometimes out of the office as well. You're walking into a grocery store. oh, hey man, let me help you with that. Oh, by the way, here's my business card. I hope, give me a call if you need something, right? It's doing different things that people typically don't do. Some of my money making, is going to door knock, right? A lot of people hate door knocking. But I'll tell
Yeah.
you, if you leave something with someone, they will remember you. And my biggest saying is people don't remember what you do, they remember how you make them feel. And if you can take that and remember that, and that's something that you implement, whether it's into your real estate game, whether you're selling solar panels, whether you're selling Girl Scout cookies, right? If you can do something a little bit different than walk on that door and say, hi, I'm selling real estate. Can you sell your house, or do you want me to sell your house? Then, they're going to be like, no, like get out of here, dude. Right. So it's
Right there.
how can you bring something to the table? Walk up to the door and say, hey, I don't want to take up much of your time. Here's a pamphlet that it actually helps you sell your home on your own when that time comes. I know you are well capable of selling your home, but I just wanted to leave this with you. And if you don't want to sell your home on your own, I'm right on the front and there's my contact info. I hope, you give me a call when that day comes, and you trust me to be your trusted advisor when that day does.
Mm.
So being able to give them something that they're like, oh, wow, no one's ever given me something. You got this nice, booklet with this glossy paper. Oh, okay. Something that they're
Yep,
not just
yep.
going to toss in the trash, right? Because at the
Mhm.
end of the day, you just hand someone your business card, they're going to toss that in the trash, right? So it's how can you leave them with something to how they're going to make them feel. So there's a lot of different things that I do on a daily basis that I call money making activities or green activities. And those activities help us as realtors make more money.
Nice, nice. Man, first though, I love how you started it off with, you get up and you kind of get dressed. And getting dressed kind of sets your tone for your attitude, man. Because that's a great quote I heard from a great philosopher say. You dress good, you feel good. When you feel good, you play good. When you play good, they pay good. And when they pay
Amen.
good, you can afford to look good. Come on, man. It's a cycle. So that right there is a perfect example of that. You have a straight go-getter mentality. Even though you may not be getting certain appointments off of regular cold calling, whatever the case may be, you say you're getting out there and you're doing a door-to-door knocking. Let me tell you something about that. And I don't want to drag this out, but I think that alone nowadays will
Yeah.
set you apart. How often are you at home and you randomly get a knock on your door for someone soliciting something? Once every month or something, maybe, if that. Now, especially nowadays. So to have someone come to your door and just knock to solicit something, especially if it's a service that you may need, it's definitely you're gonna remember that person. Man, somebody came to my door today. Even if
Yeah.
it's something you don't need. By the end of the day, you might tell your wife, man, can you believe they came to the door to try to sell me some knives today? Like, you're still gonna remember it. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I think that approach, that mentality
And,
alone is another way to set you apart. Please go
and
ahead.
that's why I don't solicit. That's why I offer. I say, hey,
There you go.
here's a guide that helps you sell your home on your own. Meaning,
Correct.
I'm not soliciting myself. I'm not saying,
Good point.
hey, use me as a realtor. I'm not saying that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying, here's a guide to help you sell your house on your own when that time comes. Now, if you don't feel comfortable selling your home on your own, I hope you rely on me to be your trusted advisor. And that's all the conversation is. And usually it's a, wow, thank you. I've never gotten something, or, okay, yeah, I'll definitely, yeah, definitely. So it's one of those things where you're not saying, hey, use me. You're saying, here, I'm providing you with something for you to be able to use for yourself benefit. So,
Yeah.
I do agree, with what you were saying. I think it's very important that realtors do door knock now. You know why? Because
Mm-hmm.
more people are working at home than ever. We have more Zoom calls. We have more people doing exactly this, right? So
Yep.
if we're having more people at home, but less people door knocking, how does that make sense? Right? So it's one of those things where I'm saying use your green activities. And a lot of people do go to work in the morning and then come home in the afternoon, right? And work virtually. So it's one of those things where, I'm just reading what you could say, I don't want to say the country, but what you could say the people are giving us, right? So as a realtor, it's my job to find out what are the most creative ways to be able to help sell people homes. And another thing that I do that I like doing is right now I have two listings, one that's 750,000, another that's 380,000. And what I like doing is called reverse prospecting. With reverse prospecting, I actually go in and I go to what is called Vortex, and I buy what are called geo leads. Those
Mm-hmm.
geo leads are targeted to a specific neighborhood. So, for an example, I'll dial the phone and it will be my listing's neighbor. And I'll say, hey, look, I'm calling on behalf of 3398 Addison Drive. Do you know anyone that is looking to buy real estate in our area? And in that way, now not am I only starting a conversation with the neighbor that might lead to another listing, but I'm having a conversation with the neighbor to be able to help someone, to be able to help my seller find a buyer for their home that traditionally wouldn't just log on a Zillow and look. You have
Mm-hmm.
a lot of what I call window shoppers, right? A lot of people that like to come through the open houses, like to book the showings with the realtors and see what's on the market and stuff like that. But it's it's finding different ways as you become more experienced as a realtor to be able to eliminate that, right? To be able to
Yeah.
say, okay, here's my questions for you. And those questions are tailored to be able to find your timeline. Your timeline is 180 days. By all means, I'm going to take care of you the same way I'm going to take care of anybody else, but I'm not going to be sending you 100 homes a day like I would that someone wants to buy tomorrow, right? So it's one of those things that help me, and you talked about earlier, is organization, but most importantly, time blocking, time
Yeah.
management. And that
Oh
is the
yeah.
number one asset that people need to
Mm-hmm.
learn, not only just in real estate, but in general.
And man, talk about, I was gonna say, in real life, not just real estate, but in real life, real talk. Good job, man. Good job. So, I mean, just based off our conversation so far, Cole, you already deeply committed to real estate. We already see that, but based off of some other things that I've seen, you're
Yeah.
also committed to mentoring, educating, and inspiring the youth. So, I want to see if you have any stories that you can share where there was a moment where you saw the impact that you made on a young person that you were mentoring or educating. You saw them actually make a stride towards success with that knowledge.
Yeah, so actually, it was quite recently. I was actually speaking at the Real Estate Success Summit. I was a
Mm-hmm.
keynote speaker there, and the one thing that I saw was I had a lot of people I talked to before. You know, Younger guy, not many people know my face. I'm on social media, but it's one of those things that around here, a lot of people know who I am, but it's going in different marketplaces to put your face. I like to refer back to Ryan Serhant. It's what is your brand, right? What is your what? Like, what are you? Are you a real estate agent and blah, 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 right? So I think one of the biggest things that I feel as I made an impact on people was I was speaking on stage in front of, 100 plus people. And when I was speaking, I was being able to use the abilities that God gave me to deliver a message that was more important than just real estate. It was more important than just, how much money am I making or you're making, right? It's being able to deliver valuable information to people that may never have gotten that coaching ever, right? And I've been
Yeah.
very blessed to be able to be surrounded by some of the best in the country. My broker, I mean, he was the best in Miami from 2007 to 2011. He was ranked number one. So it's being able to be coached by some of these guys and their
Mm-hmm.
non-traditional ways of doing things that make me more successful. So I was being able to implement that back to the crowd, give people valuable information. By the way, it was a free event. So it was one of
Yeah.
those things where I was trying to give back the most in the shortest amount of time. So I really took a lot of time and built it into a PowerPoint that I could help deliver and people could understand. And I think after that event, I probably had, I would say, about 30% of the people either text me, call me, or follow up with me and tell me that, hey, I really like the event, but most importantly, I really like the components that you hit on. And
Mm.
that makes me feel good because that means I'm guiding people in the right direction to be able to help better impact their life, but most importantly, better impact my community. So
Yeah. Man,
Yeah.
have 30% of the people that attend contact you or follow up with you. That's you're doing real good, to be honest with you. I would probably say on average, you would expect like maybe 10% of people
Maybe
to
yeah,
respond. Yeah,
maybe.
real talk. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, good job, man. See, and I like you have the mentality of teach what was taught. Not
Yeah,
everybody feels like that. Some people get the secret recipe or get the recipe and try to make it a secret. When it's no, man. If someone taught you something, pass that knowledge on, man. Like,
yeah,
teach other people. But I get it, man. I love that you feel that way. Continuously teaching what was taught or teaching from experience. I want you to kind of share some of the earlier, and I hate to call them mistakes, but
yeah.
mistakes slash lessons that you learned and some of your earlier transactions.
I will say, and this is the biggest issue I see in real estate, especially, is no one knows everything. I think as a younger kid, I was coming into real estate. I've been selling financial education since I've been 15 years old. So I've had 7 years of sales experience before I even got into real estate. And, I always looked at it as like I sold, $1,000 packages to people who didn't even need these things. I can sell
Mm,
something that people need, right? So, I think the arrogance got to the best of me earlier on in my career. I think that's actually what held me back is because I felt as I knew what I was doing, when in
mm,
reality, even now looking back at it, I probably know 20% of what I really need to know. And that comes with experience, that comes with repetition. I like to refer a lot of things back to sports because, that's where I grew up. And I truly believe that people who play sports when they're smaller and developing into high school, into college, will be better entrepreneurs than people who are not because they
mm,
understand the hard work. They understand the mentality that it takes and the amount of just effort it takes to be able to achieve major success. Growing up, one of the biggest things was, I started lacrosse in fifth, sixth grade. So that was probably about 12 years old. And then I end up, 2 years ago making the USA lacrosse team. So it's, I achieved every, level I could have. I went to college. I went to the top 5 high school in the country. I did all these things. Now, my biggest thing is whatever I do, I try to be the best at. And it comes with putting yourself in an uncomfortable position to make yourself comfortable. And I think the biggest issue is that people do not put themselves in uncomfortable positions. They like to stay where they are. They think, okay, I can just get by or this, right? What I did when I was in college is I dropped out of college. I said, hey, look, real estate, I've been around it all my life. This is what I want to do. But in order for me to achieve major success, I have to make myself uncomfortable, right? I have to force myself to go get it. I have to go earn it. I have to help people. I have to figure out ways to be creative. And right now, I feel as it almost restricts that, right? So it's one of those things where I'm just trying to be able to help people as much as I can, giving back what I was taught. And I think that's the best way to go about things. And, I think people just need to understand that, it's a journey, right?
yeah,
Some people get lucky. Some people are skilled enough to be the 1%, but a lot of it's a journey. And, if, for whatever reason, I look back from 10, 15 years from now and say, I just want to say, I wish I didn't blow my time or wish I didn't
oh
blow the
yeah,
opportunities that I had.
oh
So,
yeah.
and time is your best asset. So it's one of those things where it's just, being persistent every day, coming to the office, doing the things that people don't want to do. And as I like to say, do the dirty work, do the
Yeah.
things that, are going to make you better over time.
Hmm. See, man,
Uh,
you can't fault yourself for that, though, man. I feel like what you experience is what we all experience, man. When you're young, especially when you're doing something, you're doing it well, you do get that sense of arrogance. Like, you feel like it's you against the world almost. Like no one can tell you anything that you're doing wrong. No one can tell you what you can do better because you're young, you got the world ahead of you, and you're already doing great. And then once you get older, you start to realize some of the mistakes you made or lessons that you learned, like we talked about. And you think about a lot of the time that you wasted, and you wish you would have been more efficient with your time. We all go through that for the most part, but it's completely fine as long as you get to a point where you do realize that, and you learn to pivot and actually do something with your time and open yourself up, realize that you weren't as smart as you are, and that you can learn new things on a daily basis. I think that, makes anybody an evolving, successful professional, from my personal opinion.
Agreed. And I think this is the most valuable thing I can ever give somebody that's listening right now is you have two of these and one of these for a reason, right? Now, the most important thing is listening 95% of the time and speaking 5% of the time. The most smartest people I know are observers. They observe the room first. They observe who's around them. They observe the conversation. Because at the end of the day, the people who are observing are the people who are grasping and understanding what is being said, right? So it's one of those things where, I'm always scared of the people who are observing. What are they observing? How's the conversation going? Because they might be in the back of the head, be like, oh my God, these guys have no idea what they're talking about, right? In reality, it's this, and this, right? Because it's the people who I feel as go like this all the time are the people who truly don't always understand the things that they're doing this with. So it's one of those things where I think the biggest, lesson that I can teach somebody that's a young entrepreneur and a young business owner and a young professional is listen to the people who are older than you. Listen to the people who have gone through experience.
Yes, come on, man. Yes.
And most importantly, learn from other people's mistakes. Do not make the same mistakes your own. And I can't harp on that enough because it's one of the biggest things I see people do all the time. I go, I like to talk to a conversation, right? When I have and sit down with somebody who's worth $1 billion at lunch, my first question to them is, when we're sitting there and we're having a conversation, I first say, thank you for the opportunity to be able to sit down and have this lunch. But, I'm actually here because I want to learn about what are some of the mistakes you've made in the past that have helped you become more successful. And just by asking that conversation, they look at me and they go, wow, that's a good question. Because now I'm making them think, right? I like to, when I have the conversations with people, I like to hit it off with a bang because now they know I'm serious. Now they know I'm into the conversation instead of us just both being there, right? So it's one of those things where, I just try to make sure whatever conversation I'm having, I make the most of it. And in that conversation, you never know what can happen after it because you remember what I said earlier. People don't remember what you say; they remember how you make them
feel. Yep. Well played right there, Cole. Man, moving forward, so you play so many different roles: producer, podcast host, public speaker, professional real estate agent, amongst many other things, athlete. Could you tell us about a memorable project, podcast episode, speaking engagement, or whatever type of event where you felt like you made a profound connection with your audience? You made them feel, great about themselves, whether they were aspiring real estate professionals or individuals seeking financial education, entrepreneurs, or whatever the case.
So I actually went on a podcast, what is it, 3 weeks ago now? It's not out yet, but it will be out soon. And it was on a podcast with a mortgage. It's called Fluent Mortgage, but it was with one of their COs, their LOs, the people who do the loans, right?
Loan officers, correct?
Yeah, loan officers,
loan originators. Yeah.
And her podcast was called Keeping It Real, and I loved her podcast because, we talked about real estate. Yeah, we talked about commercial real estate, mortgage side of things, but Keeping It Real was about, keeping it real. It was about explaining and helping people, go through tough things. It was helping and explaining people how I overcame certain things, right? And we got really, really deep at certain points. And I felt as, that message and from the people that were actually there, people were tearing up, right? Because we got so deep that it was not only the main host was tearing up because she said, "I felt as you were talking directly to me." And that's how I like to have my conversations. That's when I'm
Yeah.
on these podcasts. That's how I like to, keep it with people is keeping it real and keeping it honest with you and, keeping it 100 because at the end of the day, that's how I want someone to talk with me, right? So in that time and moment in that specific time, I felt as the conversations that were being told, the how in depth we got into whether it's, social life or whether it's, personal experiences, you know, keeping it real was one of those moments where I was able to look at everybody around me and their eyes were locked in. They were locked into what I was
Hmm.
saying. They were taking notes. They were like, oh my God, I can't wait to, even the editor was just like, I'm going to enjoy editing
That's
because,
funny. Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's just like you could listen to it 5 times and not get sick of it because you do need to be reminded of some of those specific things every single day. So I think, to answer your question, I think that was probably one of the most impactful moments, in a small scene that I've had. And I think it was one of those things that really helped me, and I can't wait to release it. So it helped everybody in the room. And I think, it just makes me a better speaker every time I be able to have the opportunity to do this. So,
Yeah,
that's what,
man.
yeah.
Love. See, I think that speaks to the power of just podcasts in general, spaces like this. You don't have too many spaces where you can just it's literally the space to talk, share your
Mhm.
knowledge. And that's all it's really, that's really the basis of it. There's, you can add the visuals to it, which, you can see their body language and things of that nature. But for the most part, it's about the knowledge that they're passing forward. So, to be able to sit on that type of platform, share that information and build those connections even with the people that's just in that room. Like you said, the episode may not even be out yet, so when you are able to put it out and distribute it to the world, to the masses, you're
Yeah.
building that connection with even more people. So
Exactly.
and podcasts and platforms like this and like that make things like that possible. Love
And
to hear that, man.
you never know what's going to go viral. You don't,
Oh,
right?
that
So
part too, for sure.
it's one of those things where it's just like, you could post every single day, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'll even give you a reference back to when I was making TikToks almost every single day, right? I was making financial education TikToks and I made the dumbest video and it was like a skit, right? And I never made skits ever. And it ends up getting 900,000 views. And I'm like, I wake up what?
Well, look, you didn't even expect it. You just putting stuff out there, and I get it. I understand. Yep,
Yeah. It's
I've
one
been
of
there.
those things where it's crazy. It's just like I'm like, that video did what? I
Yeah,
made
yeah,
video,
yep.
it's one of those things that's just like it's so crazy because, I tell people all the time it's about if you want to get into certain rooms, it's about who knows you. It's about
Mm-hmm.
how many people do you know. And I
Mm-hmm.
think personal brand comes a lot with your character, it comes a lot with how you speak to people, and it comes a lot with how you deliver a message or you deliver your expertise. And I think if you can do that the right way and just consistently market yourself on social media, take it to the next level, be able to
Right.
build your personal brand, your core identity is what I call it. You're able to be, make an impact on people and helping them feel a certain way that, why do people turn on the news, right? They don't turn on the news because they read the news. I mean, the news is the same everywhere. They turn on the
Mm-hmm.
news because they like that person's voice. They like how they deliver that message, right? Why do people subscribe to you, right? They subscribe to you because they like the way that you host the podcast. They like the way
Yeah.
that your voice sounds. It's a very mellow tone, right? It's very relaxing, right? So it's one of the it's one of those it's one of those things of why people watch you, right? It's
Yeah.
building your
Yeah.
identity.
I get it. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, a prime example is that guy that at the UFC events that goes, "Let's get ready to rumble," right? That
Oh
guy,
yeah, Michael Buffer. Yeah.
Michael Butler, right? That guy is iconic because of his voice, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
No,
one of
literally.
those where it's his core identity. So it's just
Mm-hmm.
finding your core identity and be able to implement that out into the universe in that space.
I don't want to get too far away from that since I want to kind of piggyback off since we already were talking about social media and making an impact. You are you already are kind of big on social media. You know, I would consider you a social media influencer for sure, for sure. So that means you have this impact, this influence on the masses. You talked about a post earlier, but do you have another post by any chance where you put it out there and you saw the impact that it made to your audience? And how do you approach using social media to connect with clients and inspire others in the industry?
So first, to answer your second question, was
Mm-hmm.
I think for me personally, social media isn't, I'm not worried about, I'm not trying to get famous. I'm not
Right.
trying to have, a million people text me. That's not my goal. And that shouldn't be anyone's goal when posting on social media. Your goal when posting on social media should be, if I can make one connection out of every post that I do, think of how many contacts you'll have in being your phone, right? If I can have one person message me saying, hey, I like this or I don't like this about what you do, then that's great. Because I think the biggest thing is people cannot take constructive criticism, right? And
Mm-hmm.
being able to take constructive criticism is what's going to be able to help you level up faster. And sometimes it's not what we want to hear, but at the reality of it is you take everything with a grain of salt. And with that grain of salt, you fill up your bag, right? And just like everyone else has, everyone has a different bag, right? Now, how deep is your bag? Your bag is only as deep as the amount of conversations and connections that you've made. So
Mm.
that's how I'd like to approach social media. I like to approach it at a more of an entrepreneur saying, hey, you never know. I've gotten some DMs from some crazy people, right? Some people who, you know, are pretty high net worth, right? So, I'm not going to say any names for, the cautious of them, but it's one of
Yeah.
those things where you have those conversations with people that end up, next thing you know, you're on the phone. After you're not on the phone, next thing you know, they're flying out and you're having a lunch. Next thing you
Mm-hmm.
know, you're backstage. It's different things that may allow you to have different opportunities that you would never have had before. And that's why I like social media, because we can connect, right? I mean, you're all the way in Lansing, Michigan, correct?
Correct. Correct.
Lansing, right? MSU,
Yep.
Michigan State,
Mm-hmm.
right around there. Born in Toledo, Ohio, so not too far. So it's one of those
Hey.
things where it's just like I love being able to connect with people, because after I just want to be able to know that, hey, next time you have another opportunity to fill a space, I'd love to be on that, right? So it's being able to connect and being able to, help people, become better. I get a lot of DMs all the time, talking about different ways. Hey, how can I build my brand? How can I build my business? How did you become where you are? And I really take pride in enjoying and answering those conversations back, because it's like, I started here. I didn't come from a rich family. I didn't come from, millions of viewers that, my friends had or whatever, right? I came from here, from the
Yeah.
bottom, right? And now, I'm building my stepping stones. I like to call it, I'm building my pyramid, right? I'm trying to get to the top, right? But in order to get to the top, you have to be diversified in so many different ways. And I think now more than ever, you can't just have organic content anymore on social media. You have to have something that makes you unique, and you have to understand the algorithm too. That's a whole
Oh
different point. I
yeah.
don't want to take the time to talk about that, because that's an hour
Woo.
conversation alone.
Man.
But
Yeah.
you have to understand what's going on in the marketplace, just like
Mm-hmm.
you do with your profession. And social media is another full time job. So I like to look at it. How I do it is I record all my content on the first of the month. I record probably 50 to 60 shorts on the first of the month. That way, my
Okay.
editor has time where I actually am 30 days behind content. So, meaning, for an example, I will record, for an example, yesterday I record October 1st content, right? But that won't be till November 1st. So that way it
Mm.
gives my editor a month to get all the videos done, but yet not only done, but scheduled. So that way we have
Correct.
content and we don't fall behind.
Love that.
Yeah, so there's just so many different ways to do social media,
Yeah.
so many different ways of social media. And I think, the biggest thing that I can help people with is Your short-term content should form to your long-form content, which forms to clients, which forms to sales, right? It's a sales
Mhm.
funnel at the end of the day, right? People's attention span are only 7 seconds now. So how
Correct.
can you impact them in 7 seconds, right? You got to do different things of watch till the end. Here's my
Mhm.
3 ways of the best success tips. Just different things that are going to keep people's attention. Now, at the end, you promote your other content. That's your YouTube. That's your long form content. Your whatever the other ones are. I'm not really quite sure. Rumble. Things like that. So you got to be able to move from one store to another store. And now, if they can sit in and listen to this whole conversation, they're probably going to become a client. They trust
Yep.
you. They
Yep.
understand you. They want to become closer to you, right? So it's being able to now take that and compound it to the other one that helps you make those sales. So it's you got to have a game plan, and I like to say life is a script, and you just got to follow it, right? Follow your script. Whether you want to make $1 million, or you want to donate, $1 million to other people, or you want to, be an NBA player, or you want to, be, an aircraft mechanic, whatever it is, right? You have to have a game plan of how you're going to reach that goal. And I think the biggest mistakes I see right now is kids in my generation, especially that are in their 20s, they're just blindly going into it. They have no game plan,
Mm.
they have no structure, they have no time management. So it's like, how do you help those people? And a lot of them you can't because they don't want to be helped, right?
Right.
So I like to say they're going to have to make the mistakes before they realize that, hey, I should have asked for help. But just like I did, right? But I was lucky I learned those experiences early in my career. So it's one of those things, and cut me off when you need to. I could talk about social media all day, but it's very an impactful tool. It's very beneficial, and I highly recommend if you're thinking about getting on social media and you haven't already, just get on it. You're gonna get a lot of backlash. You're gonna get a lot of people
Yeah.
who like you, who don't like you, right? But at the end of the day, who cares, right? If you can make someone's day, if you can impact someone's life, you're doing good for the world.
I agree. I agree. And that just go ahead. That just touched on the whole cycle that we spoke on earlier today, like being young and arrogant, not listening to anybody, and then when you get older, you start to realize your mistakes and realize where you could have, been more efficient with things like that. But also, like you said, great way to talk about the sales funnel with social media. I don't want that to get lost because some people will get lost in just putting out content. Yeah, it's cool, but like you said, let the short form lead to the long form. Let the long form lead to potential leads, and then let that lead into clients, so on and so forth. So it's a
Yeah,
sales funnel.
correct.
Great, glad that you highlighted that. I want to look back real quick, Cole, on your career, and I want you to kind of give this explanation in threefold. What lessons you've learned about yourself, the real estate industry, and the importance of serving others. Yourself, the real estate industry, and the importance of serving others.
I think the biggest thing I've learned about myself is character. Is how do you want people to perceive you? How do you want to deliver a message? How are you going to help others, right? And for me, I think the biggest thing is people being able to build on their character. Now, in the real estate industry, I think the biggest thing is people got to be persistent. It's not an overnight business. You're not going to get a $5 million listing overnight. It doesn't happen.
Mm,
Neither, and I hate to tell people, but a lot of these multi-million-dollar listings, they take 3 to 6 months to even get on the market. So
woo,
it's one of those things where it's persistence, it's
yeah.
follow up, and it's patience. And if you can have those 3 things in a real estate game, you'll go pretty far. But at the same time, it's time blocking to figure out what is important now and what is important later. And I think a lot of people mix those two. Now, on the topic of helping others, I think there's a lot of things you can do as an influencer to help others. There's a lot of things you can do face to face to help others. But I think the most important thing is just giving people your time, right? Show up, right? That's all people care about at the end of the day, right? Because
Yeah.
you can do a lot of different things. You can help people. You can give money. You can invite people out to eat. You can do all these things, but showing up. Someone invites you to something, show up. Whether that's for 10 minutes, whether that's for a
Mm-hmm.
half hour, you decide. But I guarantee you showing up will make that person so much more happier and think so much more highly of you just if you
Mm-hmm.
showed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why when I get invited to a lot of real estate conferences or, the little seminars or people, are trying to do, like titling companies and mortgage people will put together events to bring them more business and do different things. I just think it's important to show up, spend 10 minutes of your time just to show up so that person can say he shows up, right? Because if you're known as the guy that shows up, you're known as the guy that's going to show up when game time happens, right? So it goes back to practice how you play. And if you can show up and you can help others and you can be persistent about doing that, you're going to build a lot of relationships and you're going to help a lot of people and change the way that they may feel, change the way they may think, or change the way they do things. And I think that's the most important thing with helping others is focusing on how can I make that person better or how can I impact their day?
Practice how you play. I
Yep.
love that, man. I love that. Coming from an athlete too, man. Love that. Very professional. Well done. Well said. Thank you for all the knowledge that you share here on the closing table, Cole. At this point, if you have any last words and or want to tell people how to reach out to you, the floor is yours.
I think first and most, thank you for the opportunity again. Make sure you guys all subscribe to the closing table. He's one heck of a guy, and I make sure everyone does that. Make sure to leave a
Thank you.
like. Make sure to comment what you guys want to see next because, again, he's going to bring in those players. But most importantly, you guys can find me at Cole.Nichter, Nichter on Instagram. I post 3 times a week there. I'm also going to be consistently posting on YouTube, and that's Close by Cole, CLOSEBYCOLE. That's my brand, Close by Cole. Thank you again so much, Kevin, and I really appreciate this opportunity.
Absolutely, man. Thank you again for accepting our invitation. We appreciate that. And for our YouTube audience watching right now, if you got to this point in the video, do us both a favor, hit the like button, please, and thank you. Make sure you also share the content and subscribe to our channel. And if you are listening on Apple, Spotify, or any other podcast platform, please do the same. Give us a like, 5-star rating, and subscribe for our latest content. And we're going to leave a question for our audience on the way out. So this is for you, audience. How do you measure your return on investment from the digital content you produce and distribute? Don't tell us now. Leave it in the comments below. Besides that, I'll talk to you next time.